Tell Me More podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. My name is Olivia Molly Rogers and I'm excited to get comfortable in the uncomfortable with you and remind you that nobody is perfect and everybody has something going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome back to Tell Me More. Today I am thrilled to have Chantelle Otten, a certified psycho-sexologist and expert in human sexuality, joining us. With a passion for promoting sexual wellness and intimacy, Chantelle empowers people to embrace their desires and enhance their relationships. With a background in scientific research, sexual medicine, and counselling, Chantelle promotes open discussions about sex and pleasure without shame because sex, pleasure, and relationships are topics that do not have to be shameful or taboo. This is a little bit different for us, but I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome, Chantelle.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's about time.
I know. I feel like it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I would love for you to start by telling us how you would describe yourself to a stranger.
Myself or my job?
Both.
Okay. I mean, myself, I would say like a little bit quirky. I'm an extroverted introvert, though I think these days I'm much more introverted than I am extroverted. I kind of wait till I have to do a lot of work or hustle, or be somewhere, and that's when I can tap into my extroverted side. But it gets harder as you get older. I think when you get like you're kind of more at capacity and you have more things on.
I feel that.
It's harder to get that energy to be extroverted.
I think too, your job's very social, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I'm very, though in my personal life, like I've got a lot of friends, but I've definitely got like a close-knit group of friends. And I'm just very bad at small talk. Like I can't do it. I'm so much more like a deep and meaningful person. So I'm always ending up at the back of the party with someone, hearing all about them, not answering any sex or relationship questions because that's for work time, but learning more about them. I think from a work perspective, I'm very focused when it comes to my work, and I've always wanted to help people, and I feel very privileged to be in a position to be helping so many people alongside, creating jobs, because I do have a clinic where, I employ people, and then getting to travel and explore the world and, get to do all the fun things at the same time. So what would I say? Quirky, extroverted, introvert, and I don't know, I guess I'm quite an optimistic person as well.
I love that. And what about when it comes to your job? How would you describe what you do day to day?
Yeah, so there's not really a day-to-day answer because there is no schedule for me. It's every day is so different because I have my clinical side of things where I see patients in my clinic. They come with questions or concerns or, sometimes dysfunctions or trauma. And that side of my life I don't really talk about it enough. I think I should talk about it a little bit more, but, that's much more intense one-on-one or like one. I don't really see too many couples these days. I see more individuals, but it's really kind of getting to know someone from a psychological perspective, a biological, so what's happening in their body, interpersonal, so their relationships, their, romantic, sexual, friendships, family relationships, workplace as well, and then sociocultural. So what background are they from? How do they find the culture that they're living in right now, currently? Are they stuck on anything in terms of how that's impacting their sex or relational lives? And then I put all the pieces of the puzzle together to go, why are we having some difficulties here? So kind of like a sex detective, I look into all the things that are happening in your life, and then I explore why that could be impacting on your sexuality or your relationship or just your overall quality of life. Sometimes sex is the last thing I talk about at work. And then on the other side of things, I consult for brands or for companies, and I talk about how they can be more inclusive or how we can talk about products that they have and how they relate to health and wellness and sexuality. And, then I get to work with big brands like Bumble and Audible and, having a lot of fun doing some exciting projects.
A lot of variety. I like sex detective though. That's a very, very good one.
Mm.
I
Yes.
I feel like growing up in Australia, and I'm sure you've heard this from a lot of people in the work that you do, that conversations about sex were very taboo. Having
Mhm.
Dutch parents, do you think that it was different for you with sexual education and conversations around sex growing up versus your average Australian kid?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think that sex was spoken about not just because my parents were Dutch, but because I have a sister with an intellectual disability. She's 11 months older than me, so we're both born in December. And then I have two younger brothers. But when you grow up in the disability community, you do have to talk about sex because there's also an element of safety and protection that you have to enforce as well. My parents were always upfront with the fact that sex is really important. It's something that you should have in a relationship. They consider it a priority, and they just wanted us to have the tools. So it wasn't in-depth sex education that we got at home, but it was definitely enough to make us feel, not afraid to talk about it. We weren't ashamed to talk about it. It's something that was kind of like we didn't really talk about our sex lives, but we talked about sex more in general. And we had dinner every night at the dinner table. So we spoke about everything. It wasn't just sex. We talked about politics. We talked about relationships. We talked about infidelity. Nothing was kind of off limits unless it was like crass. So my parents my dad more so is like much more traditional. So if something kind of bothered him or made him feel like a little bit strange, then he didn't really want to talk about it. But he was very happy, to talk to us about the fact that sex is super important. And I found that there was a big difference between myself and then my friendship group, where they didn't really have a safe space to go to hang out, especially with, people that they were interested in. Um, they were kind of put into like risky scenarios for their initial sexual experiences and probably ongoing after that. And I guess there was a lot of, I mean, I went to a very strict Catholic school for high school, and then, primary school was also Catholic. So there were elements of religion that, played into our lives around the fact that we got no sex ed at school, and then we weren't allowed to talk about it. And then, I did have friends who had kind of fairly religious families as well. So my house was kind of the safe haven for everyone to go to, and my parents were kind of everyone's parents. And I guess that sense of community was something that I grew up with a lot. And my parents also did a lot of volunteer work. We used to travel to like Papua New Guinea and isolated countries and areas to build women's shelters and hospitals. And I guess that's where the helping people came from, just the combo of all things. Yeah.
So what was it exactly that inspired you to get into sexology, or did that develop over time?
It developed over time. I mean, you don't really grow up going, I want to be a sex therapist. I didn't even know it was a job until I was in my early 20s. So I wasn't super academic at school. I was undiagnosed ADHD. And I just thought, I really want to study therapy. Like, I want to be a therapist. I want to study psychology. I thought it would be a really great fit for me, especially because I was already hearing everyone's stories and my parents' friends and their stories. That was kind of the time where like divorces were starting to happen, or separations or infidelity. And my house was the house that all the parents would go to lie on the couch and cry and talk about like the problems. So I kind of thought psychology is a great one. I get to help people, but I didn't really want to be like a generalized psychologist because I am much more goal oriented. I don't have a huge amount of patience. That's something that I've grown over time and developed. But back then, I was much more kind of distracted, hyperactive. My school said Chantelle's not smart enough to finish school, so she should drop out and kind of get a job now. And my parents were like, no, 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 no. They said some harsh words, but they were like, let's finish school, let's get you into uni. And so I got into psychological science. And after that, I thought, where am I going to go from here? Because I don't want to sit with people for a very long time. I want to have kind of some short-term and long-term goals, but I want to help people achieve goals. That's something that I find really, really satisfying. And then my mum said you should read Esther Perel's book, Mating in Captivity, and that is on like the nuances of desire and relationships, and it's so complex. And I love the way that she spoke about, you know, sex and connection and desire in such a fluid way. And I thought, who's talking about that in Australia? I met some really great sex therapists at that time. I went around and met a lot of people, and I thought, okay, I think there's a gap in the market here for someone of my age to be talking about this. I really wanted sexuality to be much more part of the healthcare system as well, because I always wanted to work in a hospital. And so I went in and enrolled in my Master's of Science in Medicine, and I specialized in sexual medicine. And then I moved to Amsterdam to study sexology there at the same time. So I was kind of doing 2 courses and an internship and just kind of working my ass off to be the best sex expert that I could be.
Why?
And having practice at the same time.
Could you have not studied that here, the same course?
I was studying my Masters of Science in Med through Sydney University. There's 2 courses in Australia. So there's a Curtin University and a Sydney University one. But I wanted to have the international experience because sexology was just much more, I don't know, it was much more popular over in the Netherlands. And I also, I have a Dutch passport. I, had accommodation, and I'm kind of like a bit of a nomad. Like I love escaping to a new place and learning new things. And I think it's really important to understand culture. We have a certain type of culture in Australia. I think I relate much more to the European culture. And I think when you live in Holland, then you get the opportunities to travel a lot more and meet people in different places. You go to Paris, you go to, London, you go to Spain, and you get to meet people and learn about different cultures and then how they view relationships, how they view sexuality. So it was much more like a giant kind of project for me.
I love that. I'm actually probably going to be in Amsterdam when this episode comes out. So.
Oh, you have to tell me when you're there and I'll send you lots of recommendations.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm so excited to go back. I haven't been since I was 18. I feel like it's quite different going when you're older. I know that you are very passionate about people prioritizing sexual health and well-being. Why is it so important to you? And why do you think it's important for us?
I think in general, we don't prioritize ourselves in appropriate ways. I think that we put work ahead of us. Australia has some of the highest burnout rates in the world. Stress and sex don't mix. I don't know about you, but when I'm stressed, when I've got a million things on, I don't feel particularly sexy. And then when it comes to like prioritizing sex, a lot of the time sex is the first thing to be like bumped off the list, or maybe second. I think self-care sometimes can get bumped off first. But, I had a patient this week and he's saying, my sex life has dropped a lot after having 2 children. And I said, well, what do you do for self-care? And he's like, well, I go and I do the gym and I do sauna and a cold plunge, 3 to 4 times a week. And I was like, that's great. But do you think maybe we could try and find some time there to redevelop intimacy in your relationship? And it takes 2 to tango in that certain scenario. But that's a really common narrative. We see a lot of people, especially when intimacy gets awkward or when sex gets a little bit awkward or we're out of practice, it gets bumped off because it goes in the too hard basket. Whereas if we can try and maintain a connection or have a very, direct, open conversation to say, this is hard right now. And it's because we have 2 kids, we're tired, we're both working, we don't feel particularly sexy, we don't know how to touch each other anymore, or we don't know how to communicate. If we're able to have those kind of conversations, then it does make things a little bit easier because you can just go, let's push through this awkwardness. Let's try and see where we can go and let's get to good enough for now. In terms of intimacy. So I'm passionate about it because it's a really tough topic for a lot of people to address. because
Mm.
communication is not something that we grew up knowing a lot about, especially intimate communication.
Yeah, and like if you haven't practiced it at home, it's a really hard thing to do in your relationships as you grow
Mm.
up. I remember years ago I was uh, seeing a psychologist, and I was struggling with anxiety and a bit of depression, and I remember vividly because I felt so shocked by it that she said to me, you know, make sure we really just need to take care of your basic needs, make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating good nutritious foods, exercising, and have more sex. And I was like,
Mhm.
sorry, because I don't think I ever expected like a health professional who was much older than me and like in that sort of situation. I found it jarring, I think, because I wasn't used to having conversations about sex in that way where it's seen as this positive thing that can be helpful and beneficial rather than this like
Mm.
shameful secret that no one should talk
Yeah.
about.
Well, I guess that, comes down to the fact, like, why is sex healing? And I think that's a lot. Um, I think like the discourse around that has a lot to do with our culture and the fact that it is such a taboo word in general. But I think that if you think of the song, sexual healing, it is like a real thing. I think there are so many emotional and psychological and physical benefits that do come with intimacy and erotic experiences. And I'm not talking about penetration and orgasm. I'm talking about touch in general and, being naked with someone. I think that sex can really foster deeper emotional connection. And that's something that we often lose in our relationships, especially when things get hard. We don't know how to talk about difficult things. But if we have sex there and we have an ability to have emotional intimacy, then we can strengthen bonds and we can, develop more trust in the relationship as well. And it does release oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone, which um, during physical touch can promote that feeling of closeness and security as well. So we also, I mean, sex has a lot of benefits. If we talk about stress relief, it lowers cortisol levels. So again, that's a reason why it should be a basic need. It's good for cardiovascular health, especially if you're very active in the bedroom. It's good for immune function. It's good for increased circulation, and it contributes to overall well-being. And it helps with body confidence and acceptance if you've got the right partner, of course. If you've got a partner that makes you feel ashamed of your body, then that's probably a time to reassess the relationship and, what your kind of values and morals are. I always think, what would you want your children to see? If you want your children growing up in a household where they feel respected and they can see their parents showing each other respect and developing trust and communicating openly, then that's a really good sign. Um, Sex can be really great for recovery for a few different things as well. And I guess it's a good time to put like a trigger warning in here too that, um, you know, sex is something that can help with healing from an eating disorder, for example, or trauma recovery. And it does help with um, building trust within yourself and with a partner as well, and exploring intimacy in a safe, supportive way, and exploring body confidence and your body in a safe, supportive way as well, if you've got the right connection with someone, or, even if it's self discovery as well. And then it boosts self esteem. It's great for mindfulness. It's great for presence. It helps you to disconnect from daily stresses or life stresses in general. And you go somewhere with sex, it's really about where you go, not what you do.
Yeah. I like what you said about the link between self-esteem and sex, and that it can help boost your self-esteem. But what if you are someone who really struggles with body confidence and self-esteem to the point where,
Mm.
you probably want to keep the lights off, or, keep clothes on, or you don't feel comfortable? How can you improve that? I know it's obviously a lot more than can just be shared in this snippet, but yeah, what are some tips for people in that space?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess a lot of us go through times where we're going to struggle, right? And I think you have to focus on what your body can do rather than what you're getting caught up on. So, um, moving away from how your body looks, shift the focus to its strength, its resilience, its abilities, whether that's walking, dancing, lifting, or just, allowing you to experience life. Your body is very powerful and it, serves a purpose. I think if you can foster a deeper appreciation for your body on a daily basis and its functionality rather than its appearance, you can definitely go a long way. Um, I think as well, challenging negative self-talk is something that you have to do, and that's very difficult for a lot of people, especially because we grew up in the age of magazines telling us how to lose weight and how to be skinny and how to follow certain fad diets. All of that is, of course, stuff that we're abolishing now, but that's pretty traumatic because it's also intergenerational trauma. That's passed down from. I remember my grandmother talking about diets and then my mom talking about diets and then myself. And then, all of a sudden you have an eating disorder or, you're stuck thinking that it's naughty for you to eat certain foods. And then you're not appreciating parts of your body or you can't even see your body closely. That's very challenging. Mm. So it's really about addressing that internal critic as well and trying to identify where the negative thoughts come from and how they have been, how they have arisen and how to challenge them at the same time. So I think replacing negative talk like I hate my body into I'm working on accepting my body as it is something that you can definitely explore as well. Um, Oh, my dog just came into the room. 1
Oh,
second.
your dog is so cute. I
You want
actually
to come up
there's a
here?
girl in the office that was like, if Chantelle comes in, can you ask her to bring her dog? So she'll
There
be
he
stoked with
is.
this little cameo. Oh, so cute.
Mwah, this is sauce. Okay, we're going to put him down here and hopefully he stays here because he's a little bit restless.
They're always a little bit
Um,
needy, the sausages.
Yeah, they're so funny. I think as well, like surrounding yourself with positive influences as well. So that's become a lot easier to do because of the rise of social media. I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember when social media used to be about like, it was so much more about like travel and eating like a lot of fruit and like being hot. And then it's kind of developed into like, being realistic and
Yeah.
we have some great positive role models talking about the impact of culture. We have Froome, so Lucinda Price as well, talking about like her new book just came out, All I Ever Wanted Was to Be Hot. I
Yeah,
think
we
that's a phenomenal
literally
book.
we had her on just a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I devoured that book. It was amazing.
So good. She's just incredible. And I think, we have some really amazing people who are just talking about body positivity and self-love and diversity, but we're also talking about unrealistic beauty standards and unrealistic lifestyles and the fact that, you don't, a lot of people don't travel the world and earn a living off that. A lot of people are hustling and they're working really long days, really long hours to make ends meet. I think as well, when it comes to improving body confidence and self-esteem, definitely move away from friendship groups that don't make you feel good. There are enough people in the world to surround yourself with ones that make you feel really good, and they should be your biggest supporters, your friendship group, because relationships, they do come and go, but your friends usually stay pretty solid. And if you struggle, if you don't have any kind of friends kind of as an adult, then using apps like Bumble BFF or getting out there and making one or two really good close friends is super important for your health and your quality of life. Um, I definitely think setting smaller, realistic goals for your body confidence is something that you can look at. So, setting some personal goals or trying a new activity or, even just going to like a Pilates reformer class and just getting through the class. These are small goals that can help you feel a sense of accomplishment. And I think that that's success in general. I had never been to an exercise class until like last year because I was always too scared to go because I'm a very slim person. I don't have much muscle. And I was always so scared of people watching me like work out, unless I was on the treadmill, because then I could just watch Real Housewives on the treadmill and I was like focused. I wasn't even looking at who was looking at me. But I've definitely gotten into like reformer Pilates because you do start to feel like, cool, I need to have some strength behind me. It's really important to be strong. And I think um, finding a place where you feel at home to develop that strength is really important. So, I found a good exercise class where I feel like everyone there is in the same boat and none of us are kind of looking at each other for competition. And that was super important for me to feel normalized. And then I guess like, a lot of affirmations, gratitude. I believe in manifestation. I think developing your own personal style can help with your body confidence. So, wear what makes you feel good, wear what's comfortable, what makes you feel confident, regardless of the trends that are going on in society. I think experiment with different styles, different colors, different textures, whatever makes you feel really good. And then, engage in like creative expression, get out there, that might be through art, through writing, through music. I was reading that EDM music has become the most popular genre of music for mental health. And I think that's amazing because that style of music is one that you just get lost in. You're really not looking at anyone around you. It's not a place that you're going to hook up. It's a place that you go to kind of experience and take yourself somewhere else. And I think that's amazing. And that stuff is great for body confidence and for self-esteem.
Yeah, definitely. As you were talking, I was thinking, like, I know that a lot of single women listen to this podcast and, it'd still be challenging, but easier to work with a partner who you do love and trust to build your confidence in the bedroom. But how do you do that as a single person when you're not with someone consistently? Do you have any tips for that?
I think that's the best time to build confidence.
Really?
I think that's the best time. Yeah, because a partner's great, but they're not going to they're not there to make you feel whole. They can add to your quality of life and they can definitely, make you feel really good. But building confidence whilst you're single is the most empowering experience. I think being single is such a precious time in your life and it gives you the chance to focus on yourself and your growth and your sense of worth independent of a romantic relationship or a sexual relationship. And I think that it gives you that time to focus on your physical and mental well-being and invest in your own passions and invest in yourself and set personal goals and really just crush them. Like if you've wanted to move overseas, go do it if you have the capacity to. If you want to find new friends, surround yourself with positive people. Spend time with people that uplift you and make you feel really good about yourself. It's a great time to explore your sexuality and the types of relationship and the formats of relationship that you want as well. It's a great time to explore your expression and your boundaries, and explore sexuality through casual dating or through solo play or, maybe even kind of group play as well. I really think that is the best time. I think being single can be some of the best times in your life. I think that dating in Australia is really, really tough. I'll be honest with you. We really struggle with dating culture here. It's so different.
Why do you think that is?
International.
What do you think about it is most challenging?
I think that there has been definitely like a lack of respect, especially for women in Australia. And I think that is still kind of something that is underlying in terms of the patriarchy here. I do think that mental health is something that we haven't spoken about or taken seriously enough until the previous few years, and also mental health for, masculine people as well. I think that we still have a problem with men being able to share how they feel and showing and expressing their emotions. So they push them down and, it can come out in unhealthy ways. I think that, oh gosh, I mean, there's so many things in terms of like Australian dating culture that this is a whole topic in itself, but I do think that I think that it really, really is difficult, especially because, you can look at Australian dating and go, there's a very casual approach to Australian dating. It's very laid back. It's there's a lot around equality and independence, but I still think that there is a lot of underlying inequality there. There's much more of an emphasis on being mates as well. So, like friendships, camaraderie. And sometimes I think that that can really come before the person that you're dating. I definitely know that there's a lot of kind of informal behaviors around labels as well. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that it's a problem, but I think that people prefer to keep things really casual until they're sure about the connection, but that can often lead people to feel a little bit uncertain about whether the connection is real or valid. Drinking culture in Australia is a really big part of dating. I don't really drink, so I think I look around. I used to, and I see my friends who do like still enjoy drinking. But I think that the drinking culture has led to dangerous scenarios as well, and I think it's led to like those more darker sides or like I don't know, the misogynistic sides kind of rear their heads sometimes, and that can be really scary. But yeah, I think there's a lot of great stuff about, Aussie dating. Like humor is a really big thing. Cultural diversity. I think having fun and being direct with your communication is a really great thing. But I really do believe in cultures where there is more equality and I think women are seen more as like goddesses and treated really well and with a high level of respect. I think all of that's really something that we need to kind of explore a little bit more too. And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I don't know. I would love to explore it a lot more. I'd love to. I mean, Bumble has some really good stats around dating that we should explore one time, but it's a whole conversation in itself.
It's so different. I definitely feel the difference like between Australia and different countries. Like when you go away, the way that people approach you just feels so different. You've recently launched season 2 of Sex Therapy Sessions with Chantelle Otten. I have listened to a few episodes and it is incredible. Can you tell me a bit more about that and how much does it actually reflect what you are seeing in clinic? Because they're real patients, right?
Yeah, so sex therapy, the podcast is where we have recorded sex therapy sessions with real patients. So they volunteered for the project. These are not existing patients of mine. These are people that I've never met. So the first time I meet them is in the podcast studio, which is set up like a normal therapy room. So we have 2 couches that are facing each other. We have overhead mics and we have lapel mics. And I meet them for the first time in that room. I know a little bit about them because I will have their questionnaires, their health questionnaires, so I can check what medications they're on, any kind of other things that I need to look at in terms of their overall health and wellness. But I go in there and we record a 1 hour session. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, another 1 hour to an hour and a half session. And then we do a follow-up call of half an hour to 45 minutes or so. So it's about 3.5 hours of recording that gets cut down into like a 45-minute episode. And you get to hear the journey of, that session and whoever's involved in it. And I think it's a really beautiful thing. So the people that do volunteer for the project are, a really great reflection on what I see in clinic. I would say that I myself see very complex patients in my clinic, but wow, this season we had some real curveballs. You don't actually get to hear those cuts because we have to create a story, of course, out of these episodes, but there are definitely a few that we went, oh, like there's a lot more to explore here beyond the topic of the podcast kind of episode. So I'm actually seeing a lot of these patients after the podcast has wrapped, and I'm seeing them ongoingly, which is amazing.
For anyone who hasn't listened, can you give us a bit of a run through on some of the issues that they come to you with, and also just generally in clinic, like what is it that most people come to you with? like the issues
Mm.
that you see?
It's kind of anything and everything, but if you listen to the podcast, I mean, we're on season 2 now, so you have season 1 and 2 to catch up on. We talk about desire discrepancies, we talk about sexual pain, we talk about, um, we talk about trauma, we talk about body image, we talk about boundaries, we talk about self-respect and feeling empowered within yourself. I think one of my favorite episodes is someone that I'm still seeing. And she was like, I end up in these relationships where I'm doing everything. And, I want my partner to be so happy. And I want to show that I'm going to be the best wife and I'm someone to invest in. And, that I want to get married and I want to have kids. And she's like, but my last relationship, I ended up sacrificing all of myself. And then I was, also living this lifestyle where I was doing the cooking, the washing, all the groceries, all of these, very kind of, I would say, tradition. She was in a very traditional role that she had put herself in as well. Like, yes, the relationship was one side of things, but she had put herself in that situation as well. And I said, it would be a really great thing and you can listen to it in season 2. It would be really great for you to find your own boundaries and have someone give to you. How comfortable do you feel receiving at the same time? And this patient, like, she's now thriving. She's in a really healthy relationship with someone who really respects her, adores her, is making a lot of future plans. But also, she's allowed him to, like, bring stuff to the table. She's allowing herself to receive. She's not creating a normal where she's doing all the acts of service. She's definitely creating a lot more equality in her relationships. And she's like, what I bring to the table is myself and my good energy, and the fun person that I am. So that's one of that's a really common one at the moment, especially I have a lot of young women who kind of have lost themselves in relationships. So it's about how to kind of bring their power back. Yeah. And then we have, premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction. We have disability. We have communication. We have isolation. So one of the patients, she had moved from a foreign country and didn't have a great, like a huge friendship group here, and kind of felt like she wasn't able to communicate her needs or find like an outlet outside of her relationship, which was very healthy. But you can't be fully invested in just your relationship. You need to have your sense of differentiation, so your sense of self outside of the relationship, so you feel confident in what you're bringing back, and stories that you can tell each other, and exchanges of energy that you can make as well.
Yeah, definitely so important. I felt like you were talking about an old relationship of mine when you were describing that patient. But I think it's, definitely a very common experience, unfortunately. In one of your sessions, you were talking about how important it is, those first sort of sexual encounters that you have, whether it's in your teenage years or early adult years, and how that can really impact your relationships and how you feel about sex as an adult. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, your first early sexual experiences, they really lay the foundation for how you view sex in the future. And I think if you are having experiences that aren't fulfilling, they aren't pleasurable, where it's a lot of giving, not a huge amount of receiving, where you don't learn that pleasure is for you. And I think for a lot of femmes, a lot of people never learn that pleasure is for them. So they have these sex lives that are focused on, if we're talking about cis hetero relationships, penetrative sex that, ends with an orgasm from the penis owner, and then the vulva owner is kind of going, hang on, this is normal. This is normal for me to not feel pleasure, not experience an orgasm, not allow, not knowing that I can ask my partner to go down on me, or to use their fingers on me, or to use a toy on me. This is all stuff that you can learn at any stage in your life. But if you're in the start of your sexual life and you're having these experiences that might be subpar or sometimes even traumatic, it can set a very strong foundation for how you view sexuality in the future. And I think for quite a few of the patients on this season, we spoke a lot about their early sexual experiences and how they might not have been the healthiest examples of a really good, pleasurable sex life. So they've gone through many years of not knowing that they can ask for more or ask for difference or ask for more pleasure or express themselves in, some more wild ways or kinky ways as well.
Can you, on that, share some strategies for improving communication about sexual desires? Because I know that, a lot of people don't feel comfortable to bring those things up.
I think start by listening to podcasts like sex therapy or following sex positive influencers or reading more about sex. That's the whole reason why I wrote my book, The Sex Ed You Never Had, because I never got sex ed and because most people I know never got great sex ed. So I wrote a sex ed book for adults so that they can learn a lot more about their bodies, their functionalities. You do have to kind of start with anatomy. And then once you feel comfortable in being able to articulate what you want, where you want it, and what's happening in your body, then you can start to ask for more. However, sex is the hardest thing to talk about with your intimate partner, I think, because it's so personal. So developing communication strategies that come from a really positive place. So not speaking from a negative perspective, like you never do this, or, oh, you've lost your erection again, or, I never come during sex. That's not a good strategy. That doesn't make you, people want to have sex with you. It's, I really love when you use your fingers on me, or I would really like to explore more oral sex. I've never really had an experience where someone's gone down on me and I felt more pleasure, and I'd love to experience that with you. Or, Chantelle was talking about a sex toy on her Instagram the other day and how it can help me achieve an orgasm, and I'd really love to explore that. So I've purchased one and I'd love, to use it on myself, and maybe you can watch, or maybe you can use it on me. So start with kind of being brave first and foremost, and then being positive. I think that leading with positivity is a very healthy way to go about things.
Such good advice. I love that. I have some sex myths for you that I would love to maybe bust. Maybe some of them are true. I don't know.
Okay.
Sex therapy is only for people with sexual issues.
Well, that's not true. I think that it can also be for those who want to improve on their sex life. Anyone who's got a question about sex, where, you can go to Dr. Google if you want and ask Dr. Google, but you might not be receiving accurate information. It's for anyone who wants to enhance their intimate life and enhance their communication as well. It's for people who are navigating life transitions, such as having a baby, menopause, aging, illness, injury, disability. It's for body confidence and for self-esteem. It's for recovery from trauma. It's for so many things, like supporting non-traditional relationships, such as, ethical non-monogamy. It's for sex education and empowerment. And then for those who want to strengthen their relationship and improve emotional and physical intimacy.
Love that. What about vibrators can eventually desensitize you?
Oh, I love this one. I think that I don't know where this kind of myth came from, but they definitely don't desensitize you. I do think that you can become used to a certain type of vibration and used to a certain way of experiencing pleasure. And if you do feel like you're becoming more accustomed, I would like to say, not desensitized, but more accustomed to a certain way of pleasure, and you want to be able to explore other options. And you can also take away that vibrator for a little while and see if you can find a different type of stimulation, maybe with your fingers, or with rubbing up against something, or with a different type of position. So I think that sex is a lot about variety. Vibrators are there to be extensions of your sexual self and to enhance your intimacy, not to replace anything or anyone. But they shouldn't be desensitizing you unless they're really, really strong, and that's impacting, the amount of vibrations down there. That can sometimes be too strong to the point that you actually can't reach orgasm because there's so much stimulation going on down there.
Right. That sounds quite hectic. What about men think about sex every 7 seconds? Is this true?
I don't know if this one's true. I think that this kind of research and this claim came about a few years ago, but it is a myth. There's no real scientific evidence to support that one. I've looked into it before. I do think that in reality, men do think about sex a lot more, but it's not nearly as frequent or as rigidly timed as this myth suggests. And I think as well, we can look at the fact that frequency, it varies depending on individuals, not so much genders. So sexual thoughts can come up for people of all genders and orientations. Men and women can both be very highly erotic beings, and people of all genders can have a lot of erotic thoughts. I would move away from this 7-second kind of rule though.
That very much leads into the next one, which is men have a higher sex drive than women by default.
I don't think this is true. I think, it comes back to the fact that sexual desire is really complex. I think in general, we hear a lot more about men's desire. I think that there is no one size fits all kind of solution. I do believe that all genders have high sex drives, and they can experience low sex drives as well. It's just the fact that we say that men have higher sex drives because we hear a lot more about it. And because men saying they have higher sex drives gives them an excuse to be like, I need to have more sex. I need more sex from you. And that's just a stereotype. That's just coercion at the end of the day. It's harmful. And it kind of is guilt tripping their partners into thinking, oh, well, men have high sex drives. I'm not really giving him what he needs. I need to give him more because he's not, having a good quality of life because I'm depriving him of sex. So when I say men have high sex drives, it's not accurate from a scientific or biological perspective. It's accurate from a cultural perspective in terms of the myth it perpetuates. However, everyone can have the ability to have a high sex drive, and everyone can have the ability to have a low sex drive or have a varied sex drive. We will all lose our sex drive at some point, and we will all have times where it is higher at some point.
I would love to know how you think as a society we could shift our attitudes to make conversations about sex more open and reduce that stigma.
I think creating safety within your friendship groups to be able to talk about sex in a non-judgmental way is a good starting point. If you are able to talk to your friends in an open way without them, stating their own personal opinions about your sex life, that allows you to be more open and to explore different things like kinks or different types of relationship dynamics, or even wearing different outfits or expressing yourself in different ways or buying new vibrators. So I think starting with having a good supportive group around you is the first step. I think that, self-exploration is a really great step as well, and making sure that you know what turns yourself on, what you like in your body, where in your body is sensitive. Maybe it's your vulva or your penis or your clitoris, or maybe it's like your chest or your breasts or your nipples or other parts of your body. So making sure that you explore the body as a whole. I think definitely surrounding yourself with sex positive influences and really accurate information is also really great. And then just saying, I am a sexual being and I'm allowed to be a sexual being and I am deserving of pleasure is a really great step as well.
Awesome. I love that. I always wrap up my episodes with a segment called Oranges and Lemons, which is where you share something that is a little bit more negative. That will be your lemon that might have happened today or over the last few days. And then your orange is something that's a bit more sweet and positive.
What can I think about? I mean, we all have negative things going on. I feel like a lot of people that I know are quite unwell at the moment. I think there's a lot of people in my personal life that are struggling with health issues. And in terms of oranges, you know, I have a lot of sweetness in my life. I have a lot of really good things happening. I have a beautiful dog with me. I have a really great personal life and friendship group. My family, you know, whilst we're kind of experiencing some difficulties at the moment, it's brought us all a lot closer. And in terms of myself, you know, I've gone through a huge amount of growth in the past 6 to 12 months, and I feel really proud of the person that I am and who I'm becoming, and I'm excited to see where I go.
I love that. Such a good answer, as always. I'm really sorry your lemon sounds really challenging.
Thank you.
I don't feel like I have a significant lemon, especially not after that. I mean, maybe the fact that it was bucketing down when I got out of the car and I didn't have an umbrella, so I grabbed a towel from the back of the car, which has been used on a dog and a dog that had been at the beach. So I think I smell like a wet dog now. So that's a bit of a lemon, probably more so for the people in the room. And then my orange is that I am going overseas in a few days and I cannot wait.
Okay. Where are you going?
I have one of my best friends is getting married in Spain. So I have her wedding but starting off in London, then Spain, then Berlin and Amsterdam.
Oh my God, you're going to have a party time.
But thank you so much for joining me. I am so interested in what you do and I'm absolutely loving sex therapy. I need to go back and listen to season 1 as well. But yeah, congratulations on all of the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much and enjoy your trip. I think it's great to get out of this dreary weather as well because it is really yucky outside. So go have some fun, let loose, let your hair down. I think leave all your stress behind here.
Thank you. You're a gem. Thank you so much, beautiful. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. See you.
Have a good day. Thanks for listening to Tell Me More. This show wouldn't be possible without you. If you'd like to show your support, please subscribe or follow the podcast on your favourite platforms, and don't forget you can watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify.